when the suspect is smarter than the cop. So it is something extraordinary when you see common criminals outsmart detectives and police officers. Welcome to this video, where we will take on some of the cases where suspects outsmarted, or almost did in some cases, police officers during interrogation. And guess what? We have a celebrity on our list of suspects. The Legend of Jeff. A decade ago, the Legend of Jeff began its ascent when some grainy, low-resolution interrogation footage found its way onto YouTube. Our knowledge of Jeff at that time is rudimentary. He's a Georgia resident, entangled in a web of charges related to armed robbery and staring down the barrel of a potential 10-year minimum sentence if found guilty. His life has been marked by repeated encounters with the judicial system, largely due to a relentless heroin addiction. Right from the outset of the footage, it's evident that Jeff isn't in the mood for games.
If you got something that says you didn't do this robbery, this is your chance to talk to us.
Okay, good cop.
No, usually I'm the prick.
You look like the prick.
He's steadfast in his assertion that the robbery charge is a result of an unjust arrest at his friend's residence. Moreover, he makes it abundantly clear that he has no intention of cooperating with the police. In this video, the very first words that escapes his lips couldn't be more straightforward.
Am I under arrest?
For now.
I'm under arrest?
Yeah, I'll explain everything, but before I explain myself to you, before we talk to each other, I need to read your rights, okay?
What am I under arrest for?
Well, like I said, I need to read your rights first. Obviously, the charge is robbery, okay? Yes, you're under arrest.
Get me back to the cell. I don't talk to you.
Okay, fair enough.
Instead of heeding his plea for some peace and a lawyer, the police persistently usher him back into that interrogation room throughout the next 8 grueling hours. What unfolds is an eye-opening expose of how everyday law enforcement officers employ various tactics to coerce individuals into revealing information that could potentially incriminate them. Whether it's an intricate timeline of events or a vague insinuation of their involvement in wrongdoing. Even more intriguing, it serves as a masterclass in the art of avoiding self-incrimination, even when confronted with a daunting charge and the prospect of a severe sentence. Jeff was acutely aware that any slip of the tongue could send him tumbling down a treacherous path, especially given his checkered history. However, it's evident from the footage that the police knew about his past record, which they dangled before him like a tempting carrot, and his fragile state due to heroin withdrawal.
How long you been using heroin?
Long time, buddy.
10 years? 15 years?
I hardly been alive that long. What are you trying to talk to me about here?
Talk to you about what happened last night. Look, here's the deal. Either you're in a bad set of circumstances or you went and committed an armed robbery last night.
Just 2 hours after his initial encounter with detectives, Jeff finds himself once again facing the same routine plea from a detective to just tell us his side of the story. At this juncture, Jeff's patience has worn thin, and he emphatically reiterates that he has no intention of talking to the police.
I've been through the system, buddy. I know how
I know
it
you
works.
have. I know you have,
You're
Jeff.
not my friend.
I'm not your friend.
You're trying to fucking get me. Or you're
No,
trying
I'm not trying to get
all
you.
you're trying to get is some fucking stupid ass confession, and you're not going to get one.
Jeff, I'm not going to get a confession out of you for nothing.
Exactly, because I
And
didn't
I'm
do
not trying
nothing.
to get a confession out of you.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, I didn't commit no armed robbery, and y'all ain't got no in saying I did. Let me go. All you did is find me sitting in my buddy's house because my buddy's dog's going ape shit. I go outside. There are cops everywhere, and they spotlight me. They say, "Come here."
The detectives adopt a good cop approach, attempting to placate Jeff by granting his request for a can of Coke every time they usher him back into that cramped room for more questioning. Yet it's painfully obvious that they're essentially subjecting a man already suffering from illness to torment. At one point, they even taunt Jeff, saying,
All right. I know we did this twice, but I gotta do it again every time, okay?
in a surprising turn of events, Jeff declares that he'll be willing to talk in exchange for another Coke and a Butterfinger. Shortly thereafter, he finds himself back in the interrogation room, clutching a fresh soda. But this time, he faces a new adversary, one who decides to take a harder line.
Here's what the deal is. I have enough evidence
Like what?
of the armed robbery, okay? But, you know, if you're saying you didn't do it, you need to give me your side of the story.
I didn't do it.
Okay, well, give me your side of the story. You got, convince me. Because I got a lot of evidence. I got a lot of physical evidence.
Well, like what? Name the physical
Well, I don't need
evidence.
to, why should I tell you that? There's only a couple pieces of evidence I'm missing.
Name them.
What's that?
Name them.
Unsurprisingly, the detective opts to remain silent, offering no defense for his claim of having evidence. At another juncture, he suggests he can put in a good word with Jeff's parole officer. Jeff, with sharp wit, swiftly replies,
Sure, but anything you say here, I can also tell your parole officer, and you help me out.
That doesn't mean dick.
As the interrogation nears its conclusion, Jeff delivers a parting line that's as hilarious as it is razor sharp.
I half-ass know
Yeah.
that the only reason I came up here is to get a fucking Coke.
Okay.
And I got it. But now I want a Butterfinger.
But that's not going to happen for a while.
What, the Butterfinger?
Yeah.
Why not?
Unsurprisingly, it's unlikely that Jeff received that promised Butterfinger, but records do confirm that he was released a mere 12 hours after enduring a battery of techniques aimed at coaxing him into admitting to something he didn't do. Part of the fascination and intrigue surrounding the legend of Jeff is the apparent absence of any substantial evidence against him. What happened to Jeff after his release remains somewhat shrouded in mystery, although there are updates on his recent encounters with the law in Missouri on his old YouTube channel. If indeed it's the same individual, it's clear that he has held on to both his deep-seated distrust of law enforcement and his street-smart acumen when it comes to safeguarding his rights. However, if there's one resounding takeaway for the rest of us, it's this. The police will employ relentless tactics if they suspect you're guilty. Jeff, despite being just an ordinary individual grappling with addiction in Georgia, refused to succumb to police manipulation. He recognized that the police were seeking a conviction, not a genuine solution to the case. Amidst all the intrigue and deceit, it's hard not to chuckle when reflecting on how he managed to coax these officers into believing that he just might be willing to talk if they quenched his thirst for a soda. Mark Denclow of the Gypsy Joker biker gang. While Jeff was an innocent man, the next suspect in line was not. In fact, his ability to almost outsmart the cops came from his familiarity with the interrogation room. This man is Mark Denclow, a notorious gang leader accused of kidnapping, torturing, and murdering a former member. Little did the police know that Mark was about to outsmart them at their own game. The year was 2015 when Robert Huggins' lifeless body was discovered, bearing gruesome signs of violence, fractured skull, chest lacerations, and even missing nipples. What makes the case even more intriguing is that Robert had recently been ousted from the Gypsy Joker Motorcycle Club, making Mark Denclow the prime suspect. As law enforcement brought him in for interrogation, they entered a maze of deception and cunning. Mark Denclow, deeply involved in the world of organized crime with the Gypsy Jokers, was no stranger to police inquiries. For him, facing the authorities was just part of the daily grind. The officers began their questioning, but Mark wasn't about to make their job easy.
You're with a motorcycle club. You have some affiliation with one, is that right?
I don't have any answers for questions like that.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking is that a few months back, a gentleman named Jeff Sudan, you know him? He threw your name out in conjunction with kind of a repossession of a car, or a collection of a car. Does that sound familiar to you?
No. Jeff Sudan almost might. I'm not sure about that. It seems like Sudan rings a bell somewhere, but no collections of a car. No.
He made it clear that he wouldn't answer questions he didn't want to. Yet intriguingly, he decided to waive his right to an attorney, opting to navigate the interrogation solo. The cops probed deeper into Mark's background, but he was quick to shut them down.
So this last time, how long has she
So
been?
there's my background. That's it on Nicole. What else you want to know?
Okay.
Is Nicole the problem here?
His resolve was evident. He wouldn't be an open book for their inquiries. But Mark's demeanor took an unexpected twist when the conversation shifted to his relationship with Nicole, his partner. He was adamant that he wouldn't answer further questions about her, leaving the officers puzzled.
Well, let me back up a little bit. How long have you been in a relationship?
I'm not going to answer any more questions about Nicole.
Okay.
I don't have any more answers for you until I find out what you're talking about.
Okay.
However, Mark was aware that he had already revealed enough to confirm why he was sitting in that room. Nicole's involvement in a car repossession incident had put him on the police radar. The officers continued to press, attempting to tie him to the car incident.
You guys are way off, man.
Okay.
You guys don't know. I don't know who's telling these stories, and I'm not sure who Jeff Sudan is, but I can tell you right now, nobody's ever returned a car to me from anybody ever in my life.
So if we got the story wrong, can you help us out with that?
Well, I'm not going to straighten your story out. No, I'm not.
It was a cat and mouse game, and Mark was not about to give in. He couldn't understand why he was being handcuffed for a situation he claimed he had no involvement in. Mark's refusal to cooperate persisted, prompting the officers to bring up a break-in at his house involving Nicole. Yet Mark's stoic demeanor remained unchanged, a clear sign that he wasn't about to reveal any more information willingly.
So you don't know Jeff? You said you don't know Jeff?
Don't know Jeff Sudan, no.
Would you maybe recognize a picture of him?
Well, you know what? Anybody that you're going to show me, you'd have a lot better chance showing me a picture than giving
Fair
me,
enough.
because I do not know people's names.
As the interrogation unfolded, Mark faced a dilemma: continue to engage with the officers in an effort to maintain an air of innocence, or completely shut down or refuse to provide any more details. He seemed to be teetering on the edge, not quite sure how to play his hand. The officers hinted at his detainment, at effectively accusing him of criminal activity. It was a crucial moment, but Mark's understanding of the legal process seemed incomplete. He'd yet to realize that he had the right to an attorney, regardless of whether he was guilty or not. It was a tool that could potentially help him navigate the situation more effectively. Despite claiming that he wouldn't divulge any club-related information, Mark couldn't resist discussing the club and various tangential topics for a lengthy 20 minutes. The officers, seemingly frustrated, eventually left him alone for 20 minutes. Upon their return, they once again offered him the opportunity to consult with a lawyer.
So a few times you've, mentioned maybe a lawyer, maybe not. We'd like to talk to you further, but we just want to make sure. I mean, it's your choice. If you want a lawyer, that's fine. We'll stop communicating here. If you don't want a lawyer, we can keep talking. And obviously, as the right to explain.
Then I must be going to get arrested, or you wouldn't have me call a lawyer in here.
Mark's response was ambivalent, unsure whether he needed one or not. It was clear that he had missed a crucial point. His right to an attorney was unconditional, regardless of the stage of the investigation. As the interrogation continued, Mark's suspicions were confirmed when the officers mentioned Robert. But he remained resolute, asserting that he would only consider a lawyer if he was arrested.
Come tell me that I did something. I don't even know what you haven't told me that I did anything wrong yet. Do you suspect me of something? Because if you suspect me of doing a crime, let me know so I can get a lawyer.
He seemed to miss the nuance that he was already detained and charges were potentially pending. The officers tried to make Mark understand that his cooperation could influence their decision regarding charges, but he remained defiant, insisting that he hadn't done anything to warrant an arrest.
I'm not going to tell stories about the club and this and that and why, I'm telling you, I've already told you the common stuff. This is what pretty much everybody knows. It ain't hard for you guys to find out that the f***ing guy got kicked out of our motorcycle club. Sure. That is not hard to find out.
In the end, Mark DeClough's refusal to fully grasp his rights and his willingness to engage in a high-stakes verbal battle played a pivotal role in the legal battle that followed. He and another club member were eventually charged and sentenced to life behind bars for their involvement in Robert Huggins' tragic demise. It was a case where the suspect momentarily outwitted the police, but ultimately faced the consequences of his actions in a court of law. And our celebrity rapper, DaBaby, whose real name is Jonathan Kirk, managed to outsmart the police in a way that made them look rather ineffective. From the moment he walked into the interrogation room, it was clear that this wouldn't be an easy case for the detectives. Kirk started off by invoking his Miranda rights, choosing to remain silent even when asked basic questions about his identity.
What's your full name? Come on. We just want to get it for you. This is just a formality. Just tell name, date of birth, and all that stuff.
This refusal to speak might seem counterintuitive, but Kirk did something unexpected. He waived his right to a lawyer. This bold move indicated his confidence that he could navigate the situation on his own. The alleged incident revolved around an altercation and robbery outside a nightclub. Kirk's story was somewhat unclear, but he claimed that he and his manager had been discussing a potential gig with a promoter, only to find out that the money involved was stolen. Rather than proceed with the deal, Kirk walked away, refusing to get involved. Kirk emphasized his financial stability, pointing out that he regularly engaged in high-value business transactions. He argued that he had no motive to commit a robbery, given his financial success.
Common sense. You know what I made to even be down here? A promoter booked me at that hotel. I didn't pay to be at the hotel. I was paid for. You'd have let me on my room, you would have saw close to $250,000 cash, legally, hard-earned money. I don't got to take nothing from nobody, bro.
Well, let me ask you this.
I will go outside here right now and throw $10,000 in the air. Like, I do not care about no money. I don't.
Was there an argument?
No, it was an argument. I didn't argue with a soul. My voice was never raised. There was never aggressive language from me. None of that.
Was there a fight?
None of that. No, I ain't seen no fight. And nothing's taken. We shouldn't be in no robbery, bro.
Throughout the interrogation, Kirk skillfully redirected the conversation away from his involvement in the alleged crime and back to what he considered important. He knew that the police lacked sufficient evidence to charge him, so he strategically focused on defending his innocence. It's worth noting that Kirk didn't request a lawyer during the interrogation, even though that's generally advisable. Instead, he confidently asserted his innocence and questioned the detective's belief in the allegations against him. As the interrogation continued, Kirk consistently maintained his innocence, emphasizing that he was not involved in the incident. He challenged the detectives to investigate further, suggesting that they review security camera footage and interview other potential witnesses.
When I do business, it's legally binding. It's legally binding. Everything I do, you have to sign a contract. You got to sign a contract.
Okay,
it's a contract right now.
The whole incident happened and nothing went wrong. Nothing happened. There was no.
Not to my knowledge.
There was no fight. There was no scuffle. There was no.
I ain't fighting nobody. But y'all know it's too much. Y'all know too many lies. You get what I'm saying? That's why y'all got to move backwards like that, bro. Like
you're saying that they're lies, but you don't know what we have or don't know.
Okay.
Ultimately, Kirk's strategy worked. The detectives couldn't gather enough evidence to charge him, and after 48 hours in jail, he was released. Eventually, all charges against him were dropped, and he walked away as a free man. This case highlights the importance of understanding one's rights during police interrogations and the potential advantages of maintaining silence when the evidence is lacking. While this scenario may not apply to every situation, Kirk's ability to outmaneuver the detective serves as a compelling example of how individuals can protect themselves when facing criminal accusations. David Wright. In the early hours of a chilly February morning in 2019, David Wright and his friend Christopher embarked on what they believed would be a routine drug deal. Little did they know their lives were about to take a dramatic and deadly turn. As they headed to the prearranged meeting, tensions were high. What was supposed to be a simple exchange soon turned into a sinister setup for a robbery. As the clock struck at 3:40 a.m., David confronted the buyers, demanding they surrender their belongings. But in response, chaos erupted. Pepper spray filled the air, and seconds later, a single gunshot rang out. Raul Quadro, one of the buyers, fell, fatally wounded. Panic took hold as David and Christopher fled the scene, burying the revolver they believed held their fate in a nearby field. However, the misguiding belief that they had committed the perfect crime was about to unravel. Multiple cameras in the vicinity had captured the sinister events that unfolded that night, leaving a trail of evidence that would lead law enforcement straight to their doorstep. Within days, David found himself under the harsh scrutiny of the police, yet he remained steadfast in his conviction that his extraordinary intellect would protect him. The interrogation began with David attempting to dance around the probing questions.
So, like I said, it's already been in the media. 4 people have been arrested. It's not like we don't know what happened to some extent, but there's always more that we don't know from every single party, right? Everybody has a little piece of the puzzle. We don't necessarily get the truth from everybody. So I would like to hear from you what happened.
Well, I have no clue. I'm just now hearing about this.
But the detectives had an arsenal of evidence, including CCTV footage and Facebook messages that painted a different picture. Their relentless pursuit of the truth began to chip away at David's defenses.
So you're just going to play that you have no idea what happened because you weren't there?
I was not, no.
David, driven by a narcissistic need to assert his intelligence, found himself drawn into a battle of wits with the detectives. He tried to outplay them at every turn, but the detectives had a plan. They switched tactics, emphasizing the consequences of his actions on his friends, and David began to feel the pressure.
Helpful to you, really, to just be quiet and not say anything. Because what I have are people who are looking out for themselves because they don't want to catch charge. So they're going to dime you off. They're not looking out for you.
So you believe somebody that's going to tell you that somebody else did something to save their own ass?
Well, with all the additional evidence, yes.
I've been out of jail for all of a week and a half. I've spent almost every minute of it with my girlfriend. As for, did I plan to kill anybody? Did I kill anybody? No, I didn't.
As the interrogation progressed, David's story started to crumble. Inconsistencies in his narrative was revealed, and he was caught in several lies. His ego, once his greatest ally, became his downfall. The detective seized on these inconsistencies, urging him to admit to his involvement in the crime. David's discomfort grew, but he refused to give in.
This is how this plays out. Your girlfriend's going to be dumb enough to provide you an alibi on a murder charge. And then she's going to get roped up in a murder as an accessory. If you care about that person, you have just set her up for failure. And if you want your girlfriend jammed up because you just set her up for it, then that's your choice.
You can't threaten me with jamming her up.
The standoff continued for over 40 minutes, with David maintaining his innocence despite the mounting evidence against him. The detectives remained relentless, determined to break through his defenses and extract the truth. In a final attempt to get David to crack, the detectives revealed damning details that he could no longer deny. His story was unraveling before his eyes, and his alibi was falling apart. The pressure intensified, and David's composure began to crack.
just telling you how it plays out. Like, I'm going to go talk to her, and she's going to be dumb enough to lie for you when I got video evidence that you weren't with her. Like, dude, I get it. Like, you had a quick come up, right? I get it.
But as the detectives pressed harder, David clung to his denials, unwilling to admit his role in the crime. In the end, his refusal to cooperate led to his conviction and a 40-year prison sentence, sealing his fate as the man who thought he could outsmart the detectives, but got caught in his own web of lies. And there you have it. If you enjoyed watching this video, do subscribe and hit the notification button so you don't miss out on other videos.